So as I'm sure everybody will agree, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is absolutely incredible, and I was very lucky enough to go to the London premiere of this brilliant movie. And I have to say, Sony Pictures absolutely did the marketing for this film perfectly. They just created so much buzz, and it translated into a really successful box office performance so brilliantly. And this film really does show how you are supposed to do the multiverse storyline. I mean, the Spider-Man corner of the comic book movie space really is demonstrating how you do this properly, as obviously a lot of different properties are trying to do the multiverse. But like I said, Spider-Man is just absolutely killing it. Firstly in No Way Home, and of course in Into the Spider-Verse, and now Across the Spider-Verse is just taking it to another level, and you just know that Beyond the Spider-Verse is just going to catapult it even further. Literally can't wait for March 2024, it literally just can't come soon enough. And just like in Spider-Man No Way Home, they really do solidify both Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy as the two leads in this film, so you really are with them across all of the emotional turbulence that they go through in this film. And it was just so brilliant, spending so much time firstly in their individual worlds, and then also a lot with their individual supporting characters, so that when the third act comes and a lot of stings take place in that third act, it just means so much more, because the audience have just been hooked so much on both of these central lead characters. And then on top of all of that, you have the brilliant multiverse taking place, and Spider-Man is such a beloved property, and there have been so many different iterations across all of the comic books, across all of the movies, across all of the animation series, so it's just so brilliant seeing it all just coming to life. And like I said, everybody will have their particular favourite, so it was just so cool seeing all of the cameo appearances, and there were plenty of cameos across this entire film. I love the Spider Society sequences, as that really is where the film just comes into its own. And then speaking of the Spider Society, I absolutely love anything that Oscar Isaac does, and he just does such a wicked job as Miguel O'Hara. Spider-Man 2099 is just realised so brilliantly. He's a bit of a ninja vampire in this film, and you just know that there is just so much more to this character. We have only scratched the surface with him, and if anything, I just would have loved to have explored this character a lot more, especially as he has experienced his entire universe collapsing, so you just know that this guy's heart is breaking, and because of that, he is the only one really in this entire film who is just void of any emotion. And like I said, that just makes such a compelling character, and he was really, really good as being the tough leader in the Spider-Man Society. But like I said, I would have just loved to have seen a little bit more of him, and I hope we do that in Beyond the Spider-Verse. And he just did such an excellent job with all of the exposition in terms of explaining all of the world collapsing and all of the multiversal theories. And actually, I do think it links really, really nicely with everything from an MCU perspective, so this film doesn't contradict anything that you have seen already. And Shameik Moore is so good voicing Miles Morales. He really does bring all of the humanity of this character to life really, really well. I was also really lucky enough to interview Shameik Moore, Hailee Steinfeld, and Daniel Kaluuya, and they were just telling me so much more information about all of the different characters, and I just have to say, they are just so full of depth, and they just bring so much to this movie. And another reason that I think Miles Morales is such a wicked lead character is firstly that he's super relatable, but he's also really, really endearing, and I feel like you can really relate to so many things that he goes through, firstly from a family point of view, then from trying to balance everything in his life, which I feel like a lot of people can relate to, also just wanting to save everybody, in particular his family, but of course also his world, and just wanting to rebel a little bit from all of the forced things that he doesn't necessarily agree with. So like I said, as a character, Miles Morales is just so good, and I just can't wait to see him in live action. Hailee Steinfeld, like I said, is so wicked as Gwen Stacy. I don't know why they're calling this character Spider-Woman, as of course she is known as Spider-Gwen, or even Ghost Spider, so it's really strange that they're calling her Spider-Woman. But anyway, as a character, I think she is really, really good. She is also really endearing, and she has a really sad origin. It was really nice, actually, like I said before, to spend a lot of time in her particular world, and to see the death of Spider-Man, so shocking. And of course, Peter Parker is such a legendary character, so to see him dying was actually quite difficult to watch. But also, Gwen Stacy is a bit of a tragic character. Of course, she is always doomed to die whenever Peter Parker does live on, but also, she just can't really save the people that are really close to her. Firstly, her father, even though by the end of it she is able to do this, and also her love interest. She can't really be with him because he is a bit of an anomaly, so she can't really spend time in that world at all. So like I said, such a tragic character. And then we have the secondary characters, for example, Daniel Kaluuya's brilliant Spider-Punk character, and I really loved how he's a bit of an edgy mentor, and you can tell that he has gone through similar things that Miles Morales has gone through, so he is able to advise him in a really, really good way. Jessica Drew was really, really interesting in this film, brilliantly being voiced by Issa, and she has no time for any nonsense at all and tries to help Gwen Stacy, but then, you know, when Gwen Stacy breaks the pact that she had with Spider-Woman, and she was like, look, you're on your own now, I can't really help you anymore. And then of course we have Spider-Man India, who really brings a lot of positivity, and it was really charming seeing Peter B. Parker, the not so perfect Peter Parker in this film. Of course the legendary daughter, Mayday Parker, is here as well. I would have loved it if the cameo appearances from the other world of Spider-Mans did have a bit more things to do, instead of just being a blink and you missed it cameo appearance. But nonetheless, you know, all of the characters were really, really brilliant in this film. So the ending, I think, is absolute genius, and is so much deeper than a lot of people think. First of all, I think you can definitely compare it to Back to the Future, especially returning to a world which is actually a lot darker and a lot more sinister than you left it. And I think it's also really, really interesting, as I absolutely love some of the quotes that the Joker has against Batman. For example, saying, you know, everybody has the capacity of going mental and of going crazy and of going evil and dark, and it is only a matter of the circumstances and the situations that you are put through that determines whether or not this is going to be the case for you. And you can definitely say that for this particular version of Miles Morales, as of course his father has tragically passed away, and he is being raised by his darker, more eviler uncle, which leads him to becoming the Prowler. So I think it's going to be so fascinating, and I really do hope that they dive into that particular storyline so much when both of these two Miles Moraleses have to meet. I honestly think it has the capacity and the potential to be absolutely legendary, and I just cannot wait to see what's going to happen next with it. So now let's talk about this film from a positive point of view. So firstly, like I said, all of the multiverse shenanigans are absolutely brilliant in this film. I loved the unexpected twist that they had right at the end in terms of Miles Morales actually being a bit of an anomaly, and him going to the other world where the original Spider was from, which, like I said, is of course the darker world, and Gwen Stacy and all of the other characters are in his proper world. It was just so clever. Loved all of the explanations that they had with the multiverse. Like I said earlier on, loved the fact that it didn't necessarily contradict anything that the MCU has already established. And another thing that I loved about the ending is that Gwen Stacy is creating a team of all of the supporting Spider-Man characters that you have now met across the first two films. Like I said, I would have loved it if the other Spider-Man characters could be a little bit more elevated, but all of the supporting cast members are so wicked. And it's so adrenaline fueled. You really do feel like you're on a roller coaster that just does not stop from start to finish at all, and it just really does take you on a brilliant ride in this film. However, from a negative point of view, I do think the start of this movie was a little bit slow, and from the second act onwards, it definitely did get a lot stronger, but I definitely do think that they could have just improved the first act. I think it was fine to set up storylines from an emotional perspective, as like I said, they definitely did pay off by the end of this movie, but I do think they could have improved certain things in the first act. And like I keep saying, I do honestly think that some of the cameo appearances in this movie could have been even more elevated, but I have to say, the Spot character is so good. He is originally a bit of a laughing stock as a villain, as an audience member kind of sees this character as a bit of a villain of the week and somebody that's really forgettable. And actually, they tapped into that in this movie and then just suddenly made him ultra threatening, both from a human point of view, as he is hellbent on killing and destroying Miles' family life, and also from a multiversal perspective, as he could collapse and destroy everything. So I love the fact that they really did elevate this character, and I think that is just absolute genius in this movie. Now, this next criticism might just be in my version of the film that I was watching. I was watching it on an IMAX screen, and some of the audio was a little bit muffled, so it was a little bit difficult to follow along with some of the things that were taking place. And certain sequences were just a little bit too busy, so were difficult to follow from a video and audio perspective. But, you know, those are only a few criticisms, as otherwise, I do think this movie is pretty perfect. And overall, I absolutely loved Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I think it's such a fun, enjoyable, endearing film. Brilliant characters, brilliant world, and just taking everything that you know about the Spider-Man mythos and just taking it to another level, quite literally. And it really did show what a powerful medium animation really is. I mean, I have always been the biggest animation fan, and it's just so nice for it to finally get the recognition that it fully deserves. And so for all of those reasons, I'm going to give Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse a mega 7.5 out of 10. Now, I'd love to hear what you thought of this film, so please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.